Hello, I'm Chetna Chauhan. Welcome to the second season of The BIM Student. In our first season, we just got the conversation started, but in this season, we are getting into details. Details about emerging concepts, technologies, products, services, and everything that affects digital transformation in AEC industry. For our first episode in this season, we chose a topic that is now being increasingly used in the industry. It is a hot point of discussion nowadays. There are podcasts dedicated to just discuss this topic. And different companies coming together to create consortiums to define and standardize its boundaries and engage professionals in this discussion. If you have not guessed till now, our topic for today is digital twins. I will be talking to an expert in the industry who has been very deeply engaged in this discussion. He's the Design Technology Manager at NOR and someone who's spoken about digital twins and its possibilities at various conferences and speaking engagements. Let's listen to what Kirk Stalkie has to say about digital twins. Thank you so much, Kirk, for being on this first episode of our season 2. I'm so glad you're here sharing your thoughts and views with us and with the audience.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here. Big fan of the podcast, so I'm honored to be your guest.
Okay, thank you. Let's quickly jump into it. Could you please introduce yourself to our audience, your background? How did you get into BIM? And your BIM journey and your personal journey in general?
Well, I studied architectural technology at Algonquin College. So my career actually started out as a technologist, which I think is pretty common for people who get into BIM. It's kind of like a natural calling, just dealing with the technology. So I was very lucky. Right out of school, my first job, I started working in Revit. I, of course, learned Revit a little bit at school, but it's very different using it on a real project than what you're just learning in school. And right away, I just caught the bug. To me, it was very obvious, a much better way of delivering projects, designing, being able to optimize, work with multiple design options very quickly, and just work through and make more informed decisions about your projects a lot earlier on. So you actually have the time to, if you discover something new, you can actually implement that change because it's not too late yet. So I moved up to BIM coordinator role when I switched companies and started working at NOR, where I am now, where I've been for just over 6 years now. It's hard to believe it's gone by so quick, but just been very fortunate to work on some pretty big projects, very big BIM projects as well. A lot of different disciplines. Of course, NOR, we're multidisciplinary. So it's really nice to be able to work with all those disciplines in-house and learn all of their different BIM processes and try and bring everything together, deliver the best projects that we can. Been BIM manager on some projects and across North America, and currently I'm design technology manager at NOR. So I'm based in Ottawa, but I work with all of our other offices, all of our other managers, design technology managers, researching new tools, implementing processes, managing BIM on projects. It's been a lot of fun.
It's great having you here, and the hottest topic of our day and age is digital twins, and that's what you are here to talk about. So let's start sharing knowledge about digital twin. What, according to you, is a digital twin?
Well, to me, a digital twin is, if you really try and break it down, it's a virtual representation of a thing, of a physical thing. So of course, a 3D model is a very important part of that. Like that's one of the best ways to digitally represent something. But a digital twin is a lot more than just a 3D model. It's also being fed live data from sensors into that virtual model from the physical model. So when you look at them, they're both representing the exact same thing, the 3D geometry, but also what is actually happening in that 3D model's environment. our 3D objects environment. So it could be environmental information, so temperature, humidity, but it could also be some more specific attributes like airflow in a duct, or lighting levels or occupancy levels. And that's if we're talking specifically about buildings. So to me, like this idea of digital twins and having that virtual representation is a direct extension to what BIM is doing. With BIM, we're creating that 3D model. But again, we're doing a lot more than just geometry, right? We're putting so much information into these models. There's so much metadata about every object that we put in there. And the more that we learn how to work with BIM and the more our clients are working with BIM and understanding what BIM can do for them, the more information we're putting in and the greater value they're getting out of that. So to me, it seems kind of obvious that the next step for this is to bring what we're doing in BIM into the world of digital twins, at least in our industry.
Okay, when we are talking about digital twins, we are talking about, let's say, a static building, systems that are going on inside the building. Do users of the building also impact how the digital twin is created? So let's say once a building is handovered to the clients, so user-based data, does that affect digital twin?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely can. It kind of depends how far you want to implement it. And of course, once you start talking about user data and occupant tracking, yeah, there's a bit of security and privacy that should be considered with that. But it is absolutely a part of a digital twin. There's projects that Autodesk has worked on with Project Dasher a few years ago, and they were able to visualize in a 3D model which desks were being occupied, what the temperature around their desks were. Mm-hmm. You could even change the temperature of your specific area if your building system is capable of being that fine-tuned. But yeah, there's definitely applications, even measuring how people walk around your building, get to meetings. A really big thing for companies now is having person-to-person interaction. Of course, not right now, but when we can go back to the offices, like a lot of companies, they realize that a lot of collaboration is done in kind of a impromptu way. So people run into each other in the hallway and then start talking about something, and that's how you get really creative discussions instead of like setting a meeting to talk to someone. So using a digital twin, you could see, okay, where are people walking around and how can we optimize those interactions with people? So just to boost creativity. And of course, there's occupancy sensors, so you can have your lights turn off automatically, have your air turn off to those rooms that if they're not being used. Yeah, so that means that it's really up to the owner or the client or the one who owns the asset. It's really up to them how far they want to take their digital twin. I'm looking forward to when our building systems can feed data and can feed information to the HVAC systems, to plumbing systems, so that they can be smart enough to regulate temperatures according to body temperatures, even according to gender, like men have higher body temperatures than women, so they feel hotter. So I'm really looking forward to that kind of interference. I really want technology to interfere in my life that way, but that's just me. Okay, so what do you think where we are at in the industry, if we talk about digital twins, where we are at today, especially in context of Canadian construction industry? It varies quite a lot. So right now, I would not say it's widespread. There are quite a few smart buildings, but in terms of like a true digital twin, there aren't a ton of examples because there are still a lot of challenges that need to be faced. And some of them are, how do you scale a digital twin? If we look at kind of how it would play out, it's going to be the major real estate developers that are going to come into this first. So a company like Brookfield, right, which owns real estate all over the world, really. But they're going to get a major advantage with using digital twins because they can centralize all of like the running of all of their buildings into one system and just be a lot more efficient running their buildings, being able to optimize them, running simulations before you actually do a construction change to see, is this actually going to improve our energy performance, or even just tweaking your systems, right, within your building. So it's going to be these major players, governmental players as well, like Public Services and Procurement Canada. They would gain a huge advantage from this as well. But again, we come back to that challenge of scale, right? So all these buildings are in different areas, different regions, different companies designed all of them, different companies built all of them. They're going to have different management systems in them, different types of sensors, different companies building these sensors, different data management software. There's so many differences between all of their physical assets that you really need to be able to have a platform that can work with everything. Because the other thing too is this isn't just going to be with new buildings. You're going to want to be able to bring your existing assets into this portfolio as well. And who knows, like some of those buildings can be very old, right? So that's kind of the challenge that's trying to be addressed now. So Microsoft is a big player in this actually. And I mentioned Brookfield earlier. So Microsoft is working with another company called Willow, which develops digital twins. And they created a digital twin of One Manhattan West.
Wow.
The Brookfield building in New York, and just trying to test out, like, just see what the workflow is gonna be like, and what are the benefits, and just trying to push it as far as they can. So Microsoft is actually a huge player in this, which is not surprising at all that they're creeping into construction and real estate. Frankly, I think it's kind of time that we get disrupted a little bit. Our productivity has been either stagnant or declining over the last couple of decades. So it makes a lot of sense that a large technology company would be coming in. But what they're doing is they're using their cloud platform, and they created a new programming language that developers of sensors and all these different kind of aspects that go into a digital twin can use, so that they can all speak one common language. And then that would, of course, go a long way in solving that issue of scaling. So that's kind of where it's at right now. There's a lot of different things going on, but it looks like Microsoft's trying to take the lead and be able to integrate everything together.
When you said that we're going behind or our productivity is declining because of technologies, I always feel it's like, sometimes to take a bigger leap, you're taking 2 steps back. What I also feel is here in Canada, we want to take in the lessons learned from rest of the world. So we are sitting back, seeing how everybody else is taking their, this journey onto digital construction, onto digital twins, onto BIM, and then learning their lessons. Coming to that, how important do you think is standardization of one definition of a digital twin?
That's a tough question. I don't know if it needs a specific definition, but I think it definitely needs a common language. I think trying to go too far in standardizing things can sometimes be counterproductive, which is why I kind of like what Microsoft is doing, where they're just developing that language so you can develop whatever you want and it can work with this. And that's going to increase innovation, I think. If we kind of sidestep and look at like what Apple and Google do with their mobile platforms, and Microsoft as well, right, with their operating systems and platforms, it's really helpful for developers to know, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is how I can get it out to everyone through scale. I think that's really helpful for innovation, because it makes you just be able to focus on what you want to build, and then everything else is kind of handled.
Okay, no, I do understand. I mean, even if it's not one definition but there needs to be a standard a digital twin should hold up to. And I get what you say, like how badly LOD matrices have been manipulated and been used in our industry. I know what you mean, that if you standardize and define too much of something, it really loses its essence of reaching the maximum potential it can. I want to keep on bringing you back for more episodes and let the discussion about digital twins go on, we will move to our next section, which is impossible questionnaire. I have 2 questions for you, and they are, just a disclaimer, they are specifically designed in a way that the guests cannot answer it. But if you can, you're amazing.
Okay. I'll do my best.
Okay. The first question is, what is 12D Synergy used for?
12D Synergy. It's a software.
It is.
If I had to guess, which I obviously do, I would say it's some sort of common data environment.
You're very close. Okay, so
yeah.
Yes, it's a cloud-based solution designed to help engineers, architects, and construction professionals to automate the process related to project collaboration and documentation. So very similar to what BIM 360 Autodesk Construction Cloud do, but they also pull out a lot of data from your mailboxes. It's another way of collaborating on projects. So yes, it is a type of a common data environment, but which works more on project collaboration rather than project authoring.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I'm gonna name 3 softwares and you have to tell me which one of, and all 3 of them are asset management softwares, but you have to tell me which one of these does not use BIM data.
Okay.
Okay, FMIS, eMint, Asset Cloud.
Let's go with eMint.
This was a trick question. None of these is the ones that does not use BIM data. All of them are BIM based.
Oh, okay.
See, that's why it's an impossible questionnaire, right? And I know I chose really difficult ones for you.
Yeah, I'll take that as a good sign that there are more than a few that are using BIM data. I think that's a big step, so that's great.
I mean, they use BIM data in one form or the other. Some of them use it for equipment tracking, some of them are using for equipment health, some of them are just using for naming, but some or other way they are using the BIM data, which is great.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Okay. The last section to this podcast is the Rose, Bud, and Thorn. So what we talk about in this section is related to digital twin. What do you see as a rose, which is an advantage for today, Bud, something that we can see in future, and a thorn, so something like a side effect or something as a hurdle that you see in our journey towards digital twin.
So the biggest advantage of digital twins right now is that it really allows owners and operators to optimize their building operations. We talked a lot about before about like the occupants and how they're using the building and being able to make sure your building is working for them. But there's also, the whole aspect of energy management and being able to optimize your building to use energy. It's something like 80% of a building's cost happens during operations in that part of the life cycle. So being able to save more money and optimize and use less energy and be a more efficient and green building that way, that's so much value, right? You're going to save so much money throughout the lifetime of that building. And being able to use artificial intelligence to kind of analyze all of the sensors and what's happening in your building and kind of look at the historical data and be able to predict the best way to manage that moving forward, your building's just going to get more and more efficient. So I think that's definitely the biggest advantage that we're seeing already with digital twins.
And a Bud?
So the kind of pie in the sky idea is that all the assets of the built environment are going to be digital twins, but not just buildings. We're going to have infrastructure, energy grids, traffic. Basically, the entire built environment would be associated with a digital twin. And of course, there's security and privacy and a lot of issues that go with that, which is maybe the thorn. we can point that one out now. Okay. But I think buildings having the ability to communicate with the electric grid, optimize that interaction, not just for that building, but for the region, and really just kind of optimizing the whole built environment to work better for people And I think that's what needs to be kept in the back of your mind, and those who are working with digital twins, is that these need to benefit society as well. Of course, there's going to be profit for owners and operators, and that's really great, but we need to balance that with benefits for society as well.
For me, a bud would be if I have to apply for a building permit, my building department already has a digital twin of my locality, of maybe my home, and I just don't have to go through like a 8-week long process for my building permit, for, let's say, getting a separate entrance for my basement, or for doing a renovation, adding a room on the top floor. Like, those things become really quick because I do have the data right on the website or wherever, and I know if I'm allowed to do this, if I'm not allowed to do this, and I can make that decision pretty quickly and just be able to build that stuff online I'm a Revit user, so on Revit, and submit it to building department, and they can give me a permit like within a few days. Like, that would be my pie in the sky.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are a couple things moving on that, at least in Ontario. There's a group called the Eco Innovation.
Yeah, I know about them. They're doing some good job. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're working on a project, One Ontario, that is looking to digitize the permitting process.
Right.
It's actually, there's a lot of similarities from what we were talking about with what Microsoft is doing in terms of figuring out a way to have multiple different ways that stakeholders deal with this and creating a common platform, because all these different regions already do what they want to do and how they want to do it. So can't be too disruptive with it. But yeah, like having a digital twin, like you said, in Ottawa specifically, we have a lot of rules about sight lines. So being able to put a proposed building into a government digital twin, which is vetted and accurate, and you can prove it using their own system, like that's going to be hugely beneficial.
Right. And a thorn. Let's talk about the thorn.
Yeah, so thorn, I think, is going to be privacy and security. The more things you have connected to the internet, the more points of entry you have in terms of cybersecurity, and trying to defend against that. And when your whole building is being run essentially by computer programs, you want that to be very, very secure. So I think that's going to be a huge challenge. And it's not one that can just be solved once, right?
Right.
Cybersecurity threats evolve constantly. So that's going to be a really big challenge. And I think it's going to cost a lot of money to maintain that level of security once you have it set up. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then same thing with user privacy. If we are being brought into these digital twins, how's that data made anonymous, and what are they tracking? Kind of all the same things we think about with social media now.
It was great talking to you, Kirk. I had so much fun in this discussion, and it is very, very, very educating. Looking forward for more such discussions with you, but till then, it's sayonara. Or it's bye from me.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. I'd be happy to come back anytime.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.